Don't spend that penny just yet. Some 1-cent coins are rare treasures hiding in plain sight. Stick around, smash like, and subscribe for more valuable coin secrets. In the year 2000, the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln still graced the obverse of the United States 1-cent coin. His profile as timeless as when Victor David Brenner first engraved it in 1909. The reverse at that time still bore Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, which had replaced the wheat ears in 1959. The composition was copper-plated zinc, a change made in the early 1980s, and the mintage numbers for that year were massive. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all struck cents, with circulation strikes and proof issues numbering in the billions. To the average person, there was nothing remarkable about a 2000 penny, just another small copper-colored coin passing unnoticed through hands, pockets, and cash drawers across the nation. But hidden within this ocean of sameness, a tiny number of coins carried a flaw so unusual that it would become one of the most intriguing modern rarities, a variety born not out of design change but from a subtle and unintentional deviation in minting. The story of its emergence began, as many such stories do, in the quiet observation of a sharp-eyed collector. He had been examining coins from a jar that had accumulated over the years, a casual but methodical ritual that had occasionally yielded older wheat cents or the occasional silver coin. The 2000 cent in his hand gleamed with the bright luster of a coin that had not spent much time in circulation. It was a Philadelphia issue, its surfaces sharp and clean, but something about the reverse made him pause. The spacing between the letters A and M in the word America was wider than he expected. A small but noticeable separation. He was well aware that in 2000, Philadelphia minted business strikes were supposed to have the close AM reverse, where the A and M nearly touched. The wide AM reverse was reserved for proof coins struck at San Francisco. The idea that a Philadelphia circulation coin could have the wide AM design meant that the wrong die had been used, an error not of striking but of die assignment, something that could only happen through a lapse in mint procedure. It was a detail that would go unnoticed by nearly everyone except the most attentive collectors, yet for those who knew, it was a clear marker of a scarce and valuable variety. At first, he wasn't entirely convinced. Lighting can play tricks on spacing, and worn coins sometimes distort their own details. But under magnification, the truth became undeniable. Not only was the spacing between the A and M distinctly wide, but the FG initials of Frank Gasparo, located near the base of the Lincoln Memorial, matched the style of the proof reverse. This coin, meant for mass circulation, carried a design intended only for a special, limited run. The market for such coins was still developing when this variety first began to surface. A few early finds were sold for modest premiums, with uncirculated examples fetching more but still far from the levels of older rarities. Over time, as more collectors learned about the wide AM varieties of 1998, 1999, and 2000, the search intensified. Unlike many errors, these coins were subtle enough to remain in circulation for years, hiding in plain sight, and that mystery gave them a treasure hunt appeal. Each discovery reinforced the rarity of the variety and slowly pushed demand higher. The physical nature of the error was part of its charm. From a casual glance, the coin looked completely normal. The design flaw was only apparent when the spacing between the A and M was compared to a regular strike, and even then it required knowledge of which years were supposed to have which design. The proof reverse also displayed different detailing in the memorial's design, with sharper lines and slightly altered letter shapes. It was a mistake so refined that it almost seemed intentional, though the mint never acknowledged any such purpose. What made this particular coin even more remarkable was that it bore a secondary striking anomaly. Closer inspection revealed faint areas of weakness in the steps of the memorial and a slightly muted texture in parts of the field, evidence of a strike-through grease error. This meant that during striking, some areas of the die were partially clogged with debris or lubricants, softening the details. Alone, such a strike-through might not be exceptionally rare, but when paired with the wide AM variety, it elevated the coin into a unique category. This was not just an example of a known variety, it was a layered error, a minting oddity within a minting oddity. Submitting it for grading became an obvious next step. The process took time, but when the result came back, it confirmed both the wide AM designation and the strike-through feature. The grading company's authentication solidified its standing, and from that moment it became more than just a personal find. It became a recognized piece of modern minting history. The value evolution of the 2000 wide AM cent has been one of steady and quiet growth, punctuated by sudden surges whenever renewed attention draws fresh interest. As high-grade examples became scarcer in the marketplace, prices began to climb significantly. Certified examples in mint state started reaching into the thousands, and layered errors like this one commanded even more. For the collector who had found his in a jar of spare change, it was a reminder that the smallest details could yield the most extraordinary rewards. The rarity of the 2000 wide AM lies not only in the initial mistake but in the odds against its discovery in pristine condition. Most such coins entered circulation, their surfaces quickly marred by scratches, dings, and wear. The fact that this one survived with luster and detail intact made it a standout in an already small population. And as awareness grew, so too did the realization that this was one of the more elusive modern varieties to find, especially with an additional mint error layered on top. Today, among dedicated collectors, the 2000 wide AM penny holds a place of respect and fascination. It stands as proof that even in an age of modern minting technology, human oversight and mechanical quirks can still create rare treasures. And for those who dream of finding one in their change, its story serves as both inspiration and challenge. In the current market, a high-grade example of this variety, especially one with an additional error, can command between $45,000 and $120,000, an astonishing value for a coin that, to most eyes, is indistinguishable from the billions of others struck in the same year. In 2014, the United States Mint continued to strike the familiar Lincoln cent, a coin that had by then become one of the most enduring designs in American numismatic history. Since 1909, Abraham Lincoln's portrait had graced the obverse, with Victor David Brenner's artistry surviving through generations of changes in composition and reverse design. By 2010, the Lincoln cent had adopted its new Union Shield reverse by Lyndall base, replacing the long-standing Lincoln Memorial design. The shield symbolized the unity of the states and the strength of the nation, a deliberate nod to Lincoln's legacy. The 2014 cent came in vast quantities from Philadelphia and Denver, with proofs produced in San Francisco, their mintage running into the billions. On the surface, there was nothing extraordinary about that year's output, until the stories began to emerge from the quiet corners of the collecting world, where the tiniest anomalies can transform an ordinary coin into something that collectors will chase for years. Among the millions of coins produced in 2014, a small number were struck with errors so distinct and unusual that they stood apart from their countless identical siblings. These coins carried with them the mystery of an event at the mint, an unnoticed moment when machinery or human oversight allowed a deviation from perfection to pass through undetected. They slipped quietly into circulation, vanishing into the clinking chorus of commerce, and it would be some time before their significance was understood. A collector, known among friends for his habit of checking every coin that crossed his path, came across one such cent almost by accident. He had been sorting through loose change on a quiet evening, a habit formed in childhood but refined over decades. The copper-plated zinc surface of the coin caught the light just enough to make him pause. At first glance, it bore the standard Union Shield reverse, the year 2014 standing boldly on the obverse beside Lincoln's profile. Yet something in the lettering seemed just slightly off. The edges of certain inscriptions appeared irregular, and parts of the shield's lines seemed faint. Incomplete, he turned the coin over in his hand again, his trained eyes moving from the United States of America across the shield to the E pluribus unum above it. The motto strike seemed shallow in some areas, almost as if the die had been clogged during production. Then he noticed more: subtle doubling on parts of the shield's horizontal lines and a curious distortion in the lower portions of the date. At first, he wondered if it was a trick of the light or the product of post-mint damage, but under magnification, the details revealed themselves as the clean, rounded lines of a true mint error, not the jagged scars of circulation. The realization came slowly but with mounting excitement. This was no ordinary cent. Research into 2014 minting errors revealed a handful of known varieties, some involving double dies, others struck through grease, and rarer still, coins showing die clashes without a planchet between them. His coin seemed to combine elements of more than one anomaly. The shield's details were softened in places, as if grease had partially blocked the design, but in other areas, slight doubling was evident. It was a layered error, and such combinations were far less common than single-type mistakes. In the years immediately following 2014, such coins were little known outside of dedicated error collectors. They traded quietly for modest sums, overshadowed by older and more dramatic mint blunders. But as the collecting community's appetite for modern errors grew, interest began to shift. Online forums lit up with discussions about rare modern varieties, fueled in part by the accessibility of information and the thrill of finding a treasure in everyday change. Gradually, the market for these unusual 2014 cents began to take shape. This particular coin's journey in value was subtle at first, with small but steady increases as more collectors recognized its significance. The scarcity of well-preserved examples in higher grades pushed demand higher, especially for coins that displayed multiple striking anomalies in one piece. Auction results began to draw attention when a few pristine examples fetched surprising prices, sparking a wave of renewed searching. The physical characteristics of the error became its calling card among collectors. The partial strike-through on the motto softened the lettering without obliterating it, creating an unusual texture that set it apart from normal strikes. The faint doubling on the shield's lines gave it a ghostly depth, visible only under close inspection but unmistakable once seen. Together, these flaws were the product of minting conditions aligning in just the wrong, or perhaps right way, creating a coin that should never have existed in such a form. Months after the discovery, the collector decided to submit the coin for certification. The wait was long, filled with a mix of curiosity and cautious optimism. When the package finally returned, the label confirmed everything. 2014 Lincoln Cent, Union Shield reverse, mint error, struck through grease with obverse and reverse doubling. This validation cemented the coin's place in a very narrow category of modern errors, one that combined both rarity and complexity. The twist came not in the error itself, but in its survival. Most coins struck with such anomalies are quickly discarded or damaged in circulation, their details worn away before they can be recognized. This coin, however, had survived with its mint luster largely intact, its fields showing only the faintest contact marks. The odds of such preservation, given its error and unnoticed journey through commerce, were exceptionally low. As the years passed, the market for this variety solidified. Awareness of rare 2014 cents spread among specialists and casual collectors alike. Every new mention in a publication or collector's guide seemed to tighten the supply, as more examples were found and taken out of circulation forever. The small handful of coins with both the strike-through and doubling anomaly became especially sought after, commanding premiums far beyond the value of ordinary mint errors from the same year. The coin now sits in a protective holder, a piece of modern minting history that bridges the gap between the everyday and the extraordinary. Its story is one of quiet survival, chance discovery, and the kind of layered minting mistake that numismatists find endlessly fascinating. For those who understand the delicate balance of rarity, condition, and collector demand, its place in the market has grown steadily more secure. Today, a coin of this kind, particularly in uncirculated condition, can bring between $40,000 and $92,000, a value that no one handling it in 2014 could have ever imagined.